My name is Ava Miller, and until recently, I believed that family would never betray you. Until the day I heard my mother whisper through the vent in the hallway. Let's just convince her to sign it over. It's better if the house stays in the family, his family. I was in the hallway, holding a tray of tea, frozen mid-step. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the cups. They were talking about my house, the one I bought, renovated, and called my sanctuary after years of struggling alone. And they wanted to give it to Ethan, my younger brother. The golden child. The one who never paid rent, never held a job longer than 6 months, and still got praised for existing. Let me back up. This story doesn't begin with a loud explosion. It starts with a series of quiet betrayals. Whispers. Smiles that didn't reach their eyes. A cold shoulder dressed up as politeness. It started 2 weeks ago when my parents, Margaret and Thomas Miller, said they needed a place to stay while their kitchen was being renovated. Being the daughter, who always said yes, even when I didn't want to, I welcomed them into my home. The house on Sycamore Lane was the first real thing I'd ever owned. I worked 3 jobs to save for it. I ate ramen noodles more times than I could count. I turned down dates, vacations, and even a dream job in another city, just so I could keep this place. This house wasn't just wood and walls. It was mine. So I said yes. I let them move in. The first week was fine, kind of. My mom rearranged my spice rack without asking. My dad kept turning up the thermostat because it's too cold in here. Annoying? Yes. Malicious? No. Or so I thought. Then Ethan showed up. I should have known something was off the second he walked through the front door with a smug smile and a duffel bag. Hey, Ava, he said, like he was doing me a favor by showing up. Didn't know you were visiting, I said cautiously, watching him drop his bag on the hardwood floor I'd spent weeks refinishing. He shrugged. Mom and Dad said it was cool. Figured it's easier to crash here till my lease starts. Lease? He never mentioned getting a new apartment before. I looked toward my mom, who suddenly found the floor extremely interesting. Something in my chest tightened. But I let it go. I wish I hadn't. Over the next few days, Ethan's presence grew like mold. He'd eat my food without asking. Leave dirty dishes in the sink. Hog the bathroom for an hour while I was trying to get ready for work. He even started calling the guest bedroom his room. It was irritating, sure. But it wasn't until the night of the whispering vent that the gravity of what was happening hit me. They were planning something. Something that involved removing me from my own life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin, my thoughts spinning faster. My body ached with betrayal, but my mind wouldn't shut up. Were they serious? Did they really think I would give up everything without a fight? The next morning, I decided to test the waters. Over breakfast, I casually said, thinking of refinancing the house. Maybe remodel the attic into an office. My mother flinched. Barely. But I saw it. Ethan laughed. Might not be worth it if you're not going to stay here long. I blinked. What do you mean? He grinned. You're probably going to move in with Noah soon, right? Noah. My ex-boyfriend. We'd broken up 3 months ago, but apparently Ethan didn't get the memo. Or maybe he did, and was trying to gaslight me. I'm not moving anywhere, I said coldly. My mom put her mug down, with too much force. Ava, don't get defensive. Ethan's just making conversation. Conversation. Right. Later that day, while they were out at the store, I searched the office door Ethan had left slightly ajar. Inside were bank documents. Property valuation papers. Even the blank quitclaim deed. My stomach dropped. They weren't just talking about transferring ownership. They were planning it. That evening, I set my phone to record and slipped it under the couch before dinner. I smiled through dinner. I played the role of the clueless older sister. I let them talk freely, joke freely, assuming I didn't know. After they went to bed, I retrieved the phone and listened. The first few minutes were mundane. Then came the gold. Mom, she's too emotionally attached. That's what makes it harder. Ethan, she'll cave. She always does. Especially if we make her think she's being selfish. Dad, just tell her we need stability for Ethan's future. That'll guilt her enough. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. This wasn't family. This was a hostile takeover. I spent the next day in silence. Not because I was defeated, but because I was preparing. I called my lawyer, Jessica Connors, a friend from college who owed me a favor. I told her everything. I sent her the audio file. "You've got enough to protect yourself legally," she assured me. "But Ava, emotionally? That's gonna be rough." I didn't respond. I knew it would be. But I wasn't going to be the good daughter anymore. I was going to be the storm. The next evening, I set the table with care.
Candlelight. Wine.
Mom's favorite casserole. A peace offering. A distraction. They smiled, thinking I was coming around. That's when I dropped the bomb. So, I talked to my lawyer today. I said, slicing into the food like it was their lies. Silence. Forks paused midair. "I know about the quitclaim deed," I continued. "The refinancing schemes. The plan to push me out of the house I paid for while you gaslight me." "Ava," my mom began.
No.
"Don't Ava me," I snapped. I looked at Ethan. "You really thought you could lie, steal, and manipulate me and I just roll over?" His jaw clenched. "It's not stealing," Mom and Dad thought. I don't care what Mom and Dad thought. This is my home, bought with my blood, sweat, and sanity. And guess what? Legally, you have no claim. My mom stood up. "Ava, please. Don't do this." "Oh, I'm doing this," I said with a cold smile. "And starting tomorrow, you're all out." I watched their faces crumble. They'd underestimated me. They thought kindness was weakness. They forgot I was a Miller too. But not the kind that breaks. The kind that rebuilds and burns down whatever tries to steal her peace. They didn't leave right away. Even after I told them they were out, even after they knew I'd spoken to a lawyer and recorded them, they tried to stall. Tried to reason. Tried to manipulate. I thought confronting them would end the madness. But it only turned the heat up. The next morning, my mother knocked on my bedroom door like nothing had happened. "Ava, sweetheart, I made waffles." I didn't answer. She stood outside for a full minute before walking away, her footsteps soft, unsure. I was already dressed, sitting on the edge of my bed, trying to calm the cyclone inside me. I kept replaying her voice in my head from the night I recorded them. That emotionless, matter-of-fact tone she used while planning to strip me of everything I'd worked for. They weren't just guests overstaying their welcome. They were invaders. And they hadn't accepted defeat yet. Downstairs, I found Ethan in the living room, feet on the coffee table, scrolling through his phone like he owned the place. He looked up barely. "So, are you really kicking us out? Did you think I was bluffing?" He sighed dramatically. "You're overreacting. It was just a conversation." I stared at him, with a legal document and a plan to emotionally blackmail me. He shrugged. "You always make things bigger than they are."
God.
That tone. That smug, dismissive tone. I didn't answer him. I walked past, grabbed my laptop, and started printing eviction notices. Legal, non-negotiable. Just like Jessica told me to. They had exactly 72 hours. But that evening, things got worse. I got home from work to find Ethan had invited friends over. 3 of them. All parked in my driveway. One even smoking on my front porch. Inside, they were sprawled on my furniture, drinking beers and blasting music like it was a frat house. I froze in the doorway. Ethan looked at me, holding a bottle. "Relax, Ava. It's just a couple people. We'll clean up." My rage boiled over. "You're throwing a party the day after I tell you to leave?" He rolled his eyes. "You're being crazy. It's just one night." I walked over to the speaker and yanked the plug. Everything went quiet. "I said you have 72 hours. Now it's down to 48. I turned to his friends. "Get out." One of them laughed. So I dialed the police. Right in front of them. It took 15 minutes for them to leave, grumbling and cursing under their breath. My parents came downstairs in the middle of the scene, my mom looking pale. "Why would you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Because none of you respect boundaries," I said. "Because this house isn't a hotel. And I'm not a doormat." Her eyes welled up. We're your family. I stared back at her. And family doesn't conspire to steal from their own.
She didn't respond.
She just walked into the kitchen, defeated. But the damage was already done. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. Every email blurred. Every phone call felt like background noise to the storm raging in my mind. I kept checking the security cameras from my phone. By noon, I saw my dad walking into the backyard with a toolbox. Curious, I zoomed in. He was measuring the back porch. Something clicked in my gut. I called him. Hey, what are you doing? He sounded surprised. Just checking the deck. Might be rotting. I figured I'd patch it up for you. Don't touch anything, I said sharply. Not one nail. He hung up without another word. I checked the footage again. He was gone. That evening, I checked the guest room. Ethan's stuff was still there. In fact, he had added more. Posters on the wall. A mini fridge. Even a flat screen. He was settling in. Digging his heels in. Acting like none of this was real. My hand trembled as I pulled open the dresser drawer and found something that made my stomach drop. A copy of a rental agreement. Not with my name on it. With Ethan's name as landlord and someone else's as tenant. Starting date. Next month. I scanned it, heart racing. He was planning to rent out my house. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I stormed into the living room. Are you insane? I shouted. He looked up lazily from the couch. What now? I threw the paper at him.
This.
Who the hell are you renting my house to? He read it, then smirked.
Oh.
That? Just a backup plan. In case you come to your senses. You're delusional, I snapped. You have 2 days left here. And when those are up, if you're still on my property, I'll call the sheriff personally. He stood up. You think you scare me?
No.
But jail might. We stood there, 2 feet apart, breathing hard. He wasn't backing down. And neither was I. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the front door with a baseball bat and my phone fully charged, just in case. I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I kept thinking of all the times I protected Ethan growing up. The lies I told to cover for him. The loans I gave that he never paid back. The birthday gifts. The job referrals. The unconditional love. All of it twisted into this power grab. But there was one thing he didn't understand. I wasn't the same Ava anymore. The next morning, I changed the locks. All of them. While they were out grocery shopping, I even added a camera to the hallway. And when they came back, I waited. My phone in one hand. Jessica's emergency number in the other. My mom tried her key. Nothing. She knocked. Ava. I opened the door 2 inches. I changed the locks. She looked stunned. You can't do that.
Yes, I can.
And I did. Ethan pushed forward. Let us in.
No.
My voice was cold. Empty. You have 24 hours. After that, I file for removal. I closed the door in their faces. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No fear. Just relief. But deep down, I knew they weren't done. This was just the eye of the storm. That evening, I found a note slipped under my door. It wasn't signed, but I knew it was Ethan. You think you've won, but you've just made enemies out of your own blood. You'll regret this. Sooner than you think. My hands trembled as I read it. Not because I was scared. Because I was angry. Boiling, shaking, righteous rage. This was war. And I wasn't backing down. I spent the night documenting everything. The cameras. The threats. The rental scam. The voicemail recordings. Even the texts Ethan sent pretending to be reasonable. I sent them all to Jessica. Her reply came just before midnight. You've done everything right. Keep the evidence coming. Don't engage. If they cross the line, call me. We'll bury them in legal filings. I sat back, breathing deeply, feeling something shift inside me. I wasn't fighting to win anymore. I was fighting to protect what was mine. But just as I started to feel a shred of control, something happened. Something I didn't expect. Something that changed everything. I woke up the next morning to the sound of breaking glass. A crash downstairs. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed my phone, bolted down the stairs, and stopped. The living room window was shattered. A brick lay on the carpet, wrapped in a note, written in jagged, hurried letters. Leave or else. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was violence, and it was coming from inside my family. I stood frozen in front of the shattered window, my feet planted on the shards of broken glass, breath stuck in my throat. The morning light poured through the jagged hole in the living room, but it felt like a cold, cruel spotlight. Wrapped around the brick was that threatening note. Leave or else. I knew Ethan had always been impulsive, entitled, manipulative. But this was aggression. This was a message. And worst of all, it was from someone who had a key to my soul once.
Someone I used to protect.
Someone who had the audacity to look me in the eye and call me crazy. I called Jessica immediately. I sent photos, the note, and video footage from the front yard camera. 10 minutes later, she replied, "This escalates things. File a police report.
Now.
We'll use this in court." I hung up and started the report online. I scheduled a visit from an officer to document everything. They'd help create a record. But emotionally,
I was spiraling.
Because if this was Ethan, if he'd thrown a brick through my window, what else was he capable of? That evening, I visited my neighbors, people I barely knew, and asked if they'd seen anything. An older woman across the street, Mrs. Hargrove, said, "Well, I saw someone in a hoodie walking up your driveway around 5 in the morning. Looked tall, broad shoulders, limped a little. Ethan had a slight limp from a basketball injury 2 years ago." Bingo. I thanked her, heart pounding.
I was scared, yes.
But more than that, I was humiliated. This was my house,
My space.
my sanctuary, and my own brother had declared war. That night, I confronted my parents. I didn't ask politely. I stood in the doorway of the guest room where they were pretending to sleep and demanded answers. "Was it Ethan?" I asked. They didn't reply. "Did he throw the brick?" Still no answer. But then, my dad said something that flipped the entire story upside down. "We warned him not to do it," he muttered. I blinked. "So you knew?" My mom buried her face in her hands. "We didn't think he'd actually go through with it." "You watched him plan it?" "Not like that," my dad snapped. "He was just angry. He felt pushed out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, instead of stopping him, you watched him turn violent. And then you stayed silent while I cleaned up the mess?" Neither of them answered. And in that moment, the final piece clicked into place. They weren't just enabling him. They were protecting him. Even now, even after everything, I was the enemy in their eyes. Not the adult man-child who trashed my house, threatened me, and tried to defraud me. The daughter, who built something on her own, was now inconvenient. A threat to their comfort. And that's when it hit me. They didn't just want me to give Ethan a place to stay. They wanted me to give up my place entirely. It was like a fever dream suddenly made sense. Why my mom kept saying, "He needs it more." Why my dad kept hinting, "You're young, you'll bounce back." Why they tried to gaslight me into doubting my own ownership. They weren't just visitors. They were trying to replace me. That night, I didn't sleep again. But I didn't cry either. I sat by the kitchen window, sipping lukewarm coffee, watching shadows shift across my backyard. I remembered every moment Ethan had let me down as a sibling. The time he took my car, without asking, and got it towed. The time he lied about his gambling debts, and I emptied my savings to help him, just this once. The time he told his ex-girlfriend that I was the reason he cheated, because I raised the bar too high. Piece by piece, it all resurfaced. But I'd excused it all. For years. Until now. The next morning, I packed my parents' things into boxes and left them outside the front door. I sent them a group message. "You have until noon to pick this up. After that, I'm donating it. I've filed the police report. I've changed the Wi-Fi. The cameras are active. Do not try me again." Their reply came in all caps. "My mother. You'll regret this, Ava. Family comes first." I didn't respond. Because family doesn't terrorize each other. And I had no room left for people who only loved me when I was convenient. Later that evening, I received a message on LinkedIn from someone I didn't recognize. A woman named Kimberly L. messaging me with a short, awkward intro. Hi, Ava. I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but I recently signed a rental agreement with a guy named Ethan for your address. He said it was his place. My blood ran cold. So the rental deal was real. He had already been collecting deposits. I messaged back immediately, asking for a copy of the agreement. Kimberly replied with a scanned document, and there it was. My address, his name, her signature. Start date in 2 weeks. Security deposit of $1,200 paid via Venmo. He wasn't just fantasizing. He was conning strangers. Using my house. I sent everything to Jessica. She didn't even wait this time. We're going to court. I'll file a restraining order. We'll get police to supervise his removal if needed. By the time I finished reading her email, my heart was racing so fast I thought I'd faint. It wasn't over. But now, I had leverage. That night, there was one more surprise. A second message from Kimberly. Hey, weird question. Is your name Ava T? Because I saw that name on some old mail near the fireplace in a picture Ethan sent me. I Googled it and found your professional page. I'm so sorry if I've been tricked. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I asked her to send me any photos Ethan had shared. When they arrived, I gasped. He'd taken dozens of pictures of my house, my furniture, my art. One photo even had my dog in the background. He had used my life as a catalog. And people had paid him. I printed every piece of evidence, built a binder as thick as a college textbook. And the more I flipped through it, the more a pattern emerged. This wasn't just about Ethan being reckless or lazy. He wasn't just entitled. He was calculated. He was playing the long game, slowly edging me out of my own life. If I hadn't acted when I did, he would have stolen everything. And my parents, they would have watched.
Silently.
Maybe even smiled. The final straw came the next morning. A call from my building manager at work. Hey, Ava, your brother called the front desk, said it was urgent. Claimed he needed access to your office. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Did he get in? I asked.
No.
But he was insistent. Said he was there to drop off paperwork you forgot. My heart raced. He was trying to ruin me professionally now. How deep was this obsession? How far would he go? I told the manager never to let him near the building again. Then I called Jessica. This isn't about the house anymore, I told her. No, she replied. It's about control. He wants your life. And she was right. This wasn't about a couch, or a bedroom, or a rent check. This was about erasure, about replacing me in my own world. But he didn't know something very important. I was no longer scared of him, and I was done playing nice. I showed up to the court hearing in a sharp navy suit, hair pulled back, folder in hand. No trembling, no tears, just truth and fire in my veins. Ethan was already there, slouched in a chair next to a public defender. He looked surprised to see me, not because I showed up, but because I didn't look broken. I looked like a woman ready to end this. He smirked when our eyes met, mouthing something like drama queen. I ignored it, because he wasn't my audience anymore. The judge was. The truth was. And I wasn't going to let either be twisted again. Jessica did most of the talking. She laid out everything. The fake rental agreements. The messages from Kimberly and others. The brick. The police report. The messages my parents had sent. Photos of damage and screenshots of Venmo payments. Each document was a nail in the coffin Ethan had built for himself. His lawyer tried to argue it was a family misunderstanding, but even the judge raised an eyebrow when Jessica handed over the photo of Kimberly's security deposit and Ethan's confirmation message. This is fraud, Jessica said plainly. An endangerment, I added. There was a brick in my house. My dog could have been killed. I could have been injured. Ethan finally spoke up, rolling his eyes. Oh, come on. It was just a warning. She's overreacting. The room fell silent. The judge stared at him, Did you just admit that you threw a brick into someone's residence? Ethan paused. I mean, hypothetically. Jessica leaned forward. Your Honor, we're requesting a restraining order, immediate injunction against him entering her property, and civil damages. The judge didn't hesitate. Restraining order, granted. Fraud investigation, forwarded. Damages hearing, scheduled. Court-ordered therapy, required. I didn't even smile. I just nodded. Because this wasn't a victory lap, it was a line in the sand. But I wasn't done. Not yet. There was one more confrontation I needed. One more conversation that had haunted me since this began. My parents. I invited them to a cafe on neutral ground. They came reluctantly, suspicious, probably thinking I was going to apologize. Instead, I slid 2 letters across the table. What's this? My mom asked. One is from my lawyer, I said, outlining the boundaries going forward. And the other? My dad grunted. A personal letter. From me to you, explaining why I'm going no contact. They both blinked. I'm done, I said quietly. I love you both, but this was betrayal. Not just neglect.
Complicity.
You didn't just watch him hurt me, you helped. My mom's lip trembled. We didn't know it would go this far. I cut her off. You hoped it would go further. You wanted me out, so you didn't have to feel guilty about enabling him. My dad slammed his hand on the table. That house was always meant to stay in the family. It's still in the family, I said, cold and firm. I am family. You just forgot that. They didn't say much after that. Maybe because deep down, they knew I was right. Or maybe because they were finally forced to see that I wasn't afraid anymore. I walked out before the food arrived. I didn't look back. A week later, something unexpected happened. A woman named Sabrina, one of Ethan's exes, messaged me on Facebook. Hey, Ava, I heard what happened. I just want you to know you're not the only one he's done this to. She sent screenshots, stories, bank statements. He'd scammed her, too. Emotionally, financially, psychologically. The pattern was everywhere. Ethan hadn't just tried to replace me. He'd been trying to manipulate and control every woman who ever posed a threat to his delusions. And now, with legal eyes on him, they were finally stepping forward. I sent it all to Jessica. This may help the fraud case, she said. But more than that, it helped me. It reminded me that this wasn't just about reclaiming my house. It was about reclaiming my narrative. No more guilt. No more silence. No more tolerating dysfunction because it wore the mask of family. I repainted the living room. I adopted a second dog, a rescue with a big bark and a soft heart. I changed the locks again. And every time I walked through that front door, I reminded myself, this is my space, my peace, my victory. A month after the hearing, I saw Ethan on the local news. He'd been arrested again. This time, for forging another lease with a different address, scamming an elderly woman out of her retirement savings. He was being held without bail. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sorry. I felt
free.
And that, I realized, was the ultimate confrontation. Not the courtroom drama. Not the yelling. Not the police report. The real confrontation was between me and my silence. Between me and the fear they had taught me. Between me and the version of myself that thought I owed them loyalty just because we shared DNA.
And now?
Now I was done owing anyone anything, except myself. It took weeks before the silence of the house felt like peace and not abandonment. In the beginning, every sound made me flinch. A creaking pipe, a gust of wind, the ticking of the old kitchen clock I once loved. But as the noise faded and the air cleared, something extraordinary happened. I began to feel safe. Not just safe from Ethan or from another brick through the window, but safe within myself. I started rearranging the furniture. I bought a velvet green couch I'd been dreaming about for years. Hung up art I'd kept in storage because my family once called it too weird. I even painted the guest room in a deep crimson tone, bold and defiant, like the courage that had slowly crept into my bones. The house didn't feel like theirs anymore. It felt like mine. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to heal properly. Week after week, I peeled back layers of guilt, fear, and self-doubt that had been planted by my family for years. And underneath it all, a version of me that had always been there, waiting, resilient,
Whole.
unafraid. People started reaching out. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years messaged me. "Ava, we heard what happened. Just want you to know we're on your side." Some apologized for staying silent when they knew Ethan had always been the golden boy. Others admitted they, too, had been manipulated, gaslit, turned against each other by the family's toxic hierarchy. One aunt even confessed, "Your mom was terrified you'd outshine him. You always did, and they couldn't take it." I didn't know how to respond. So I just said, "Thank you for saying that." But not everyone changed. My parents never responded to the letter I gave them at the cafe. And honestly, that silence spoke volumes. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to win their approval. I wasn't trying to earn back love that came with conditions. I wasn't chasing after ghosts in human skin. I was choosing peace. Then came the final twist. A letter arrived at my door. Not from Ethan. Not from my parents. But from the law firm handling my grandmother's estate. Apparently, when she passed away years ago, she left behind a second will. It had never been filed correctly until someone anonymously submitted it during Ethan's ongoing fraud case. The new will left the house to me, solely, not as a family agreement, not as a shared property, not as an inheritance to be split, but as a gift. To Ava, for your loyalty, your heart, and your strength. I always knew you were the one who would protect this place. I sat on the floor of the hallway and cried, not because of the house, not because of the will, but because someone had seen me, truly, deeply, without filters or excuses. And they'd believed in me when no one else had. Later that evening, I lit a candle and placed it in the window. Not for anyone else, just for her, for my grandmother, for me, for the girl who survived emotional exile, betrayal, and a war for her home, and came out not just alive, but rooted. I wish I could say everyone got what they deserved in a perfect ending. That Ethan went to jail for good. That my parents woke up and begged for forgiveness. That justice came wrapped in a neat little bow. But life isn't like that. Ethan did get indicted for fraud and property damage. But he's appealing. My parents remain silent, clinging to their version of the truth. But I no longer need them to validate mine. The real justice? It's in the freedom I now feel. The joy of waking up and making coffee barefoot in my kitchen. The thrill of adopting another rescue dog and naming him Bricks. The calm that comes from no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because I took off the shoes. I walked away. And I never looked back. One night, just as I was locking up, I got another message. Blocked number. No caller ID.
Just a single line.
You think you won. But it's not over. I stared at it for a moment.
Laughed.
And hit block. Because that's the thing about fear. It only works if you invite it in. And me? I don't answer to ghosts anymore. The next morning, I stood by my front door, sipping tea, watching the sunlight fall across the garden. The same garden I once played in as a kid. The same one Ethan had tried to rip from my hands. The same one my grandmother had planted with love. And I whispered something only the walls could hear. I'm home. And this time, I'm staying.